Alrighty, I am back myself. I thought I had things muted, which is odd. Though, of course, I'm not muted in Mumble, so you might have heard things from Mumble.
Wait, what were you saying?
Well, I am back. The mic was open in Mumble, but should have been off for our viewers.
Oh, so maybe I could just hear you. Right, that makes
Exactly.
sense. Cool.
So you probably heard me pouring my wonderful soda.
Yeah,
Soda.
Actually, I need to decide what snack I was going to have. Like, I had energy drinks ready. I was going to be staying up late and playing games, and I almost popped an energy drink open just now, and I was like, no, I'll pass on that. Because if I'm not going to have the invite till tomorrow, I don't want to stay up all night.
Hey.
Although maybe I could do another video.
Exactly. Always time for more videos. Alright.
I could do, like, top 5 flavor cards.
Alright. Are we ready to move through the jungle and go talk about our blood choices?
No,
I'm ready.
Oh, yeah, we're going to talk about, like, what our favorite ones for Blood were, right?
Yes. We are
Okay.
back!
You want to start, Gwaer?
Favorite cards for blood. This is rough. Murder. Warlock Inquisitor.
And Sorrow?
And not Sorrow. Any card other than Sorrow, really.
Sorrow, hashtag Sorrow too strong. Nerf Sorrow. Hashtag
Nerf Sorrow.
If I had to pick my favorite ones, I guess a couple of them we haven't seen. I love Blood Harbinger. I love Zombie Plague, but they're not spoiled in the current alpha spoil. So I'd have to go with Fang of the Mountain God and Claw Mountain God. I just like the synergy between those two.
Those are good choices.
I want to talk about Warlock Inquisitor. Like, it's my favorite one if you're talking about power level. But Headless Horseman, or what is he called? Is he a horseman?
Headless Executioner.
Headless Executioner.
Executioner. I was gonna say horseman. Why isn't he riding a horse? Yeah, Headless Executioner all day. Just
all day, every day.
There's just too much. There's too much there. There's so much stuff to work with.
His life story is quite interesting.
Yeah, I want to know his life story.
While we were making it up just then.
Yeah, I want to know how his veins got all, how he got all ripped like that.
We saw how his veins got all ripped like that. Do you not remember the card?
Terrible
transfer.
It's really
and then someone cut his head off.
Do you see the scythe there?
They transferred his head to a hipster and they gave him the scarf.
Yep.
What a tragedy.
That is exactly how that happened.
I believe that's what it is, Umaru, actually.
Alright, we ready for the diamonds in the rough?
No, I actually kind of want to know how he got the scarf. Like, how did that end up on there? All right, I'll stop. We can keep going.
Trust me. You know what? We'll go talk to Hyena. We'll get him to write a fanfic on it. It'll work.
There you go.
I'm just saying.
Good call.
Alright, so Adamanthian Scrivener.
It could be like a fanfic with
him
and a person who has fish hands, and it could be like a love story.
Yes, well, I'll send him an email tonight after we're done. I'll be like, Hyena, remember when we were talking about you writing stuff? I need you to write a fanfic.
Fish hands. Yeah. All right. I'll stop.
So,
Adamanthian Scrivener is freaking fantastic. He's amazing. I don't know why he's so good.
Because he's a solid 1-for-1/1 that gives you life for playing things and getting advantage.
Yeah, but normally getting life, kind of terrible. I'm eating. I don't know if you noticed. I'm kind of terrible at getting life. At getting 1 health. It's not great, but he just synergizes so well.
Mm-hmm.
What are you eating right now?
I'm eating a barbecue sandwich.
That sounds so good. Oh, I want one. I was just gonna eat some salted seaweed snack, which is also good, but it's not a barbecue sandwich.
I have to say, I have to pick barbecue over salted seawead snack.
I love
now, if he had
snacks.
a barbecue salted seaweed snack, we might be talking something different.
No. But Adamanthian Scrivener, though, he likes his seaweed snacks, and he also pumps up like a paladin or something like that.
Yeah, we'll see if his synergy's down here. We'll look for him. Now, Ancient Sentinel, an 8-for-3/3 steadfast, 2 threshold. You pay 3 less if you control no troops. And this troop has +3/+3 while you control no other troops. So if you have nothing in play, he's a 5 for 6/6 that screams murder me.
Yep, that's a good call. This
But
guy is interesting.
If it's not blood, you know, if you're pretty sure you're not going to have any chance of it getting murdered, that's still pretty nice.
I mean, you still have inner conflict or whatever the heck you wanted to play on him, but this guy's interesting in that it is for a specific play style that is slow and doesn't involve having a lot of troops in the first place. And that's what makes this guy interesting, but still a 5 for 6/6, I mean, is good. But the second you play anything else, you know, he's going to go back down to a 3/3.
Yeah, I mean, so it's like you play him, you follow Judgment up with this guy. And actually, that works kind of well. So we were talking, he's 5, now Judgment is 4, so you actually can do that. You can do Judgment turn 4, turn 5, Ancient Sentinel.
Yeah, that'd be a good play.
Yeah. So I and that's in that way it works that Extinction was. Oh, by the way, Sean, I responded to you on the message. I finally got it. But yeah.
All right. Angelic Ascension, quick action, transform a troop into an angel.
So I just did a video last week. I think top 5 uncommons. I don't know if this would still be on the list. There's a few ones that were spoiled. The one over at Hex Realms probably makes my top 5. So it might have kicked one of them off. But this is a really strong uncommon. Like you just have to be careful not to get blown out. But an angel is a 5/5 with flight, which is pretty good when like you compare it to Boulder Brute and Cloud Titan, which are 4/4s with flight. You know, it's a combat trick too, so that's got it going for it. It's a quick action. I really like this card a lot, actually.
Yeah, I think one of the fun parts, I can see this coming out when you're facing down maybe a Sapphire Tempo flight deck, and they're just hitting you in the face with their flyers, and you're like, oh, well, this extra Inspire troop I have is now a 5/5 angel. Have a great time. Oh man, someone's talking about the Angel of Dawn miracle.
So, I think there was something I was going to say about Angelic Ascension, but we'll just move on. It wasn't interesting,
Yeah.
whatever I was going to say.
Oh, everyone's favorite Blessing of the Fallen.
So the best thing about Blessing of the Fallen is that you can play that wild card and destroy it and get 2 life.
Yep.
True story.
True story.
Boom. Gets removed.
Just hashtag thanks for 2 life, bro.
Now, then we also
Hashtag
have...
better than sorrow.
Better than sorrow.
Hashtag better than sorrow.
Blessing the Fallen's going to have its space in Inspire decks. I don't know if it's going to be like the make or break card for constructed Inspired, but it's got a place somewhere.
Inspire. Go ahead.
I think any Inspire deck wouldn't hurt from having this card in it.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I mean, what are you playing over? What's your 24th card? What's that? What's taking it?
I can't think of anything. I would say Blessing of the Fallen is pretty much has a spot in Inspire deck.
And like the Inspire deck was one of the best ones at Gen Con. Granted, things have changed a bit since then. But what was I gonna say? Yeah, I mean, it's a good card. I think one thing that I thought was interesting at first, and now that we have a lot more spoilers, it's not quite as good because you actually have good things you can do. But a Secret Laboratory with Blessing of the Fallen, where you're throwing Inspire troops into your graveyard on purpose in order for them to inspire whatever you were going to play. I think that's kind of cool.
Yep.
Yeah, I said my piece on there. Now
All
we
right,
also
so we got
have
Blinding Light.
Yep.
Which is prevent all damage that would be dealt to you and troops you control this turn. So I mean, this could be a complete blowout. You know, if people are playing that all troops you control get +3/+3 and crush, the overrun equivalent. You know, this completely stops in its tracks. There's other couple situations like this is a good combat trick, unlike Sorrow, which
Wah, wah.
and then there's Bravery, which the only time I think I ever want to play this is if I'm attaching it to a Swift Strike troop. The rest of the time I'm like, hey, cool story, guys. I gave my guy +1/+1.
Cool story,
Like, and
bro.
it still died.
+1/+1 to my Raptor. It's going to be awesome. It's the bravest Raptor of them all.
Yeah, but all in all, in that line, 2 great cards, 1 not so great card.
Yeah.
All right, moving down.
And not a whole lot of flavor, But this next one, maybe there's some.
Now, Captain of the Dragon Guard. I remember this one from the contest we did a few weeks back.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
people found a way to break this guy in a perfect scenario.
Speaking of people, Wordle should be in here chatting with us.
Yeah,
Woot woot.
Wordle is a jerk. I just want that to be on the record, right? This is going on YouTube or something.
Yeah.
All right, good. Wordle is a jerk.
Why?
He's also a savant, because
He's also a Hex savant. Yes, that's true.
So in case anybody is not already initiated on this, is Mokog and I did a contest about 2 months ago, and it was like a lot of people were interested in it. It was kind of cool. It was how early on could you cast an extremely powerful Eye of Creation? How early on could you go infinite? And Wordle like blew everybody else out of the water,
Oh my
doing like
goodness.
turn 3 Eye of Creation for over 33,000 or something ridiculous.
Yeah, and
you know,
it was just because he stopped, I might add. It's just because he stopped.
And they ended up nerfing a couple cards, and I almost think like that whole thread might be responsible for the nerfing of the card, because
Yeah.
like it didn't really seem like that card needed the nerf. Although it wasn't a nerf, they gave it more defense too, so
Yeah.
it balanced out.
They changed the timing of it. They didn't nerf it. They changed its timing. So because it utilized technical genius when it was still a 1-for-1/1 that allowed your artifacts to cost less, but then they made it a 2-for-1/3 that did the same thing. So it meant that you couldn't do it so early, which slows down your artifact decks. It slows down a couple of your Sapphire styles, but one of the things he did is Captain of the Dragon Guard, right?
Yeah. So what did it work with? It worked with Captain of the Dragon Guard, whatever that artifact guy that gets artifacts back from your graveyard is, and then Sensei
Relentless
the
Corruption.
Milky Eye?
Sensei the Milky Eye.
Yeah, so it just like kept chaining around infinitely, where they all cost 0, and you could just keep getting them, and they all had Replicator's Gambits on them, so you had all these guys out, and then you kept tapping stuff and untapping it and doing these really ridiculous shenanigans.
Now
he spent like, with the amount of time that he spent on that, like he could have done something really productive.
Well, he did. He taught us the power of tutor in the game. That's what he taught us. So, for instance, you could do all of this stuff if you could get a Transcendent into play.
Well, no, it was really like he taught us the power of being able to have absolute control over extremely random scenarios.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's what I mean is like, so if you read the Transcendent and take it as literally as possible, it's every time you draw a card. So, and that's kind of the thing. I mean, aside from Relentless Corruption pulling it from the top of the opponent's deck, total absolute power luck. And the setup is always was luck, and getting in the exact same card as that you put in with the Gambit, which is, what it's there for, is the, that 1 in 52 or 51 chance of, pulling the card and being able to play it again.
All right.
But it was fun, and it taught me tutors are awesome, and I look for every tutor now.
So we suddenly got a couple more people in the channel, and somebody was saying, they said cost equaling 0 was something they were trying to avoid. What it was is they were trying to avoid degenerate stuff, is what they really were getting at. Is that as long as there's counterplay, there's not really any hard and fast rules of cost can't ever equal 0. As long as there's counterplay, then they can do whatever they want, so long as it's not totally degenerate and non-interactive. So we might see stuff like that.
So,
all right.
But actually what he does, because we haven't really talked about him, so when he enters play, you put target troop from your graveyard on top of your deck, and it gets +1/+1. Just thought I might as well at least, say what he does before we move on to
before
Chimera.
we move on. Yeah, Chimera Guard Outrider. While this troop is attacking, it has a attack equal to its defense. So you could pump it up, you give it 20 defense, and all of a sudden it has 20 attack, but only when it's attacking.
Oh man. If you could find a way to make the corpse wall attack, that would be awesome. I wonder if there's a way you can drop Defender off something yet. Have we seen anything like that?
I have not seen anything that'll remove Defender, no.
Alright, well, Chimera Guard Outrider is pretty straightforward and a little not so exciting. What do you got, Diamond Aura for Square?
Alright. What is it, Gwaer? What does it read there?
Diamond Aura, 5 cost, 1 diamond threshold, and it targets a troop and that troop gets permanent +2/+2 and steadfast.
I think it's kind of awkward that it gives it steadfast, but it's a quick action, so you kind of want to use it as a combat trick.
Mhm.
But if you're already attacking with the guy, it's already going to be exhausted.
Yes, that is a little messed up.
Of course, its
And I don't-
art
I mean,
is pretty
it would
cool.
be- Its art is very cool, and it would be too much card text to also unexhaust your currently attacking troop, but I think that would be a nice effect if it did that as well.
So, on the art note, like
Mhm.
I think it's assumed that it's a giant dragon, but to me, it looks like it's a giant turtle. Which
I think it is a
lot more
giant
fun.
turtle.
Yeah, it's a giant turtle breathing fire on him, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Nice.
I kind of want to know more about this location in Hex. There's like these huge pillory mountains in the background.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that stuff too. I really just like the lore of this game a lot.
Agreed.
And speaking of lore, there's Eternal Youth, which has nothing to do with lore, but it's a guy pouring a cup of water onto his hand.
Yes.
And his hand looking way better afterwards. He was just very dry. He had very dry skin.
Well, yeah, he was like really tan, and it kind of like reversed the tan on his skin.
Sure.
Oh,
Eternal
my.
Youth. By the way, the only life gain card I would actually willingly put in decks, I'm pretty sure.
Are you putting it in as a 1 of or a 4 of?
I'd probably be putting it in as a 1 of because I would also be running the Transcended and just pulling it
Yeah.
out whenever I wanted it.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I figured.
So, 3, 2 threshold, gain 5, escalation, almost playable, except,
It's kind of like playable in these weird toolbox synergy combo decks. I think we got really boring all of a sudden, so we're going to talk about Forgotten Lord.
and boobs.
Like,
But he doesn't have boobs.
I mean, he doesn't have boobs though, but he's got Steadfast and Spell Shield, which definitely makes him like a hard to deal with threat.
Oh man, he's kind of nice.
He's a 3/4 for 5, so he's like a little bit below the curve. But once he hits the table, like he's not gonna be able to fight against the bigger creatures in combat. But at least once he's out, you're not gonna really be able to kill him with anything other than creatures.
Yeah, I mean, the steadfast makes him pretty good on being able to receive the blocks. The 5 cost makes him really great for the really good synergy for the Inspire decks. I like that guy.
So, what's
I
the
mean-
flavor text on this one?
Boobs,
For as
boobs,
long
boobs.
as my descendant draws breath, my sacrifice shall be remembered. So I once believed. So that's no longer true. Like he's come to a realization that his whole life was a waste, and like his sacrifice shall be remembered. But he used to believe that. Now he doesn't think his sacrifice is going to be remembered
That's
anymore.
because he's forgotten. He's the Forgotten Lord, so people
Right.
forgot him. So
Yeah,
Oh,
well,
and that means
thank
his
you
body's
for
now
that,
taken
Captain
over by
Obvious.
like a necrotic
well,
on top
you
of
seem
that.
to have missed it.
Yeah, maybe I did.
Oh well.
He's really angry now though.
Now our next card, the Frost Wizard, has gotten a little bit of press on the Twitters. A lot of people
I
have been
like
liking
the
this
Frost
guy.
Wizard. Yeah, I like him a lot.
I like him a lot.
He is a 4 for 1 diamond threshold 4/3 human mage. When he attacks, choose a target troop you control. The next time that troop would be dealt damage this game, prevent it. So it doesn't have to target another; it can target himself. And it's whenever he attacks, so he essentially can make himself prevent the damage to him. So he's almost pseudo invincible, but
Right,
he can
you
do it
do
to
that to-
others.
You do that to him, most likely your opponent isn't going to block him because he's just going to kill whatever they've got generally, or he's not going to take any damage from it. They are.
Mm-hmm.
Then next time when he attacks, you do it to another troop, and that troop attacks as well. And they have to make a choice eventually to block somebody and just take it.
Well, and it forces your opponent to feed him, and that's the thing I like about him.
This whole time, like, I keep making assumptions about cards when I look at them, and I thought it said until end of turn.
No,
Yeah, I
still
thought
is.
that
but
too
yeah.
originally, but then I reread it. Yeah, it's a very good card, like extremely good.
That's ridiculous. Like, this is like a 4-cost version of King Gabriel, you know? It only affects
Right.
one card, and it kind of does that thing. But
No, exactly.
It has
That's
the same
exactly what
effect.
it is. He's a fan freaking tastic.
Yeah,
He's great. Yeah, this guy's good.
Yeah, he constructed.
What did you guys do before
Boom.
I joined this stream here? Like, literally, what did you guys talk about?
I think we only streamed once. We talked about
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
We talked about Wordle being awesome.
Mhm.
No. Well, he is awesome. So
And
that's
now that you're here, we're talking about him being a jerk, so... You know?
Well, he's also a jerk. He can be both.
All right. Frost Wizards, amazing. We're moving on to the next guy. The Grim Skull Sorcerer.
So the Grimsoul Sorcerer doesn't have boobs, 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 and there we go. But the heroic
He does
inspiration,
have two eye
like
sockets, which
Ogre
have their own.
or Troll, there he does.
He's the Necrotic Diamond-Eyed Mage.
Yeah, he does have diamonds in his eye sockets too.
I think he's a decent pull and limited with that socket. Not the best 2-drop in the world, but the socket
Yeah.
makes up for it.
Oh, they did change him. Yeah, I like him more as a 1/3 too. A 1/3 with like if you socket him blue and give him flight, a 1/3 with flight seems a lot better than a 2/1 with flight.
Yeah, that was a hard nerf, I think, personally. He was much better before. Like, I mean, here's another problem. Like, I was saying the same thing about the Black Miner gem guy that was, 2/1 or whatever. The one cost miners is really rough. Like, I mean, but then again, they're also extremely versatile. They're great, but just there's so much removal for them.
So yeah, they either remove Shame Gladiator or they haven't shown him yet. I think they haven't shown him yet because he had Rage, which that other one didn't. But like, even Shame Gladiator, a lot of people liked him. I didn't like him all that much. I think he's like effectively a good Thunderbird, like a 3-cost version of Thunderbird. But this Grimskull Sorcerer, like, I thought it was a great card as a 1/3. Now it's a 2/1. It's like before it would have maybe been a first pick Diamond card, and I'm not excited about Diamond as a color. So the fact that I would say it was a first pickable card means that like it's got to be really good. And you know, I think I would pick it over all the rest of the Diamond commons, including Inner Conflict. But now I don't know if that's true.
I wouldn't know for sure.
I'm taking a look at like the minor gems for it, and in limited, I can see taking him just because he's the good socket. To see him as a 2 for 2/1 flight, yeah, he'll get burned up, but so would a Thunderbird.
I think the awkward thing about this guy before was when he was a 1/3, if you gave him the wild socket to make him cost 1 less, you still couldn't play him on turn 1 because the diamond threshold.
Sure.
Yeah, but I think you can give him the minor +1/+1, so a 3/2 for 2 for diamond.
Yeah.
I can definitely see it working.
That was the funniest thing about him is when he was a 1/3, he turned into the diamond was cost +1/+1/+2, so he turned into a 2/5 for 3, and there's that Zodiac Shaman, which is a 2/5 for 5. When you're like, haha, I laugh at you, good sir.
That's true. Now Zodiac Shaman isn't the most worthless card in the game. That's true. So I guess this was actually a Zodiac Shaman buff rather than a Grimskull Sorcerer nerf.
It was a nerf. Yeah.
Well,
talking about Guard Dog, I think really the most important thing to know about Guard Dog here is he seems like he could actually speak. He could probably talk. Like,
I'm pretty sure I saw this guy. I saw the Guard Dog guy on those mussel beaches in California when I was there. Like him, exactly. He was there.
Well, there was this weird time I went to a PTQ for Magic, and there was some guy, like, he stood out from the crowd because it looked like he was just off of, like, Pain and Gain, that movie or something. Like, he came straight out of it. Like, he was just some super ripped, like, guy playing cards, and it's just so, like, out of place in the whole room. But it was strange. But, yeah, I think Guard Dog, not only is he, like, really buff, but, like, I definitely picture him, like, being able to talk.
Yeah, but imagine Guard Dog like this.
You find it hilarious.
Yeah, you imagine he's got this deep bark, and he's like, woof, woof.
No, he talks like
like a person.
He's very pristine. He's like, oh, cheerio, good sir.
Oh, cheerio, good sir.
But something that's actually relevant: a 2 for a 3/3 when blocking is not terrible.
No. I mean, he'll still die to the burns of the world, but you force him to use a burn on a common like that. It works for me.
He's only ever attacking. He's not doing much for your deck.
No, he's really not. I mean, he's a blocker. I mean, he's not the worst card in the world. He's not Sorrow, for example.
Hashtag better than Sorrow.
He responds to a number of different commands. Stop is not one of them.
Well,
But he doesn't attack, so he does kind of respond
what
to
he
stop
what
pretty
he
well.
does is stop. You tell him to
Yeah.
stop. I mean, that's guard this. That's like stopping.
Yeah.
All right, I revised
Heroic-
my assumption. He is now terrible because his lore doesn't make any sense. I dislike.
Yeah, but what if you made it a heroically inspired guard dog? All of a sudden,
But,
he
like,
becomes an
so-
11/11 guard dog.
He's not much of a guard dog if he doesn't respond to stop. Like, and this guy is telling him to go somewhere. Like, he's supposed to guard something. So
it's
why
like,
are you telling
it
him to
looks
go
like
away?
he's doing
he
his
needs to-
job, but that guy is like,
He's
go
not-
somewhere else.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that guy's obviously an idiot, though. I mean, just look at
Yeah.
him.
And heroic inspiration.
So,
Target
quick action.
Target drop doesn't die to anything other than murder. Is basically what it says.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean that's a great combat trick. I like it a lot. I mean,
I don't
it's
know.
a 1-cost 8/8.
Yeah,
It only
I'm
works
for
on
it.
defense, though.
it's still a
That's
one
true.
cost
It's very
8/8. Blow
situational.
something up.
That's
But like,
very
so
true.
is wild growth. Like, giving it +3/+3 is probably enough most of the time, and so is repel. Like, it's guaranteed to kill it, and it can kill attackers. Like,
Yeah, I didn't actually read it. It's target blocking troop. It's not very good. I don't like it.
So why-
I
I
should
can
probably
the guy
read these
yellow.
cards before I talk
yeah,
about them. Is that what you're
reading is a
saying?
good idea. But until then, why don't we learn about immortality?
okay, we can actually.
Do
talk
I have
about
to
a
read
card.
this one?
No, I'll read it for you. It's a
All right.
2-cost, 2-diamond threshold quick action. If you would lose the game this turn, your health becomes 10 instead.
All right, there's another heal card that I might consider taking.
If there was a way that
I
you
mean-
could recur this would be a really interesting way to never lose.
The problem is that basically it's just delaying the inevitable most of the time. I mean, there's going to be corner cases when you could win next turn, and this
It's
is
good
great.
against combo.
Right, sure, great against combo, but most of the time
And
it's
it's
not
2
right. I mean,
costs, so like you'll be able to use it most of the time.
right,
Mhm.
maybe sideboard. I would consider sideboarding this a lot of the time, but I don't think I would just play it.
How many do you think you'd sideboard? 2? 1?
Well, if you're playing, it depends on how vulnerable your deck is to combo.
Yeah.
Like if this, and how prevalent combo is in the metagame. Like if there's a really strong combo deck and this straight up beats it, like having access to them is nice. But then if this straight up beats a combo deck, a lot of time people just don't play it because they don't think the combo deck is going to be available, and then it gets in this weird like dredge situation. If you ever played Legacy Dredge, like that's kind of what happens.
Well, we also have Infusion of Diamond. 2, 1 threshold. Troops you control get life drain for the turn. What do you
Isn't
think of
that
this as a
a
combat
champion
trick?
power?
Yeah, I was just about to say this is a champion power. Like
I mean,
Yeah.
champion power on a card, I'm not in love with. I'm not in love with that at all.
yeah, this
Now,
makes you
the
want to really
champion
play
power,
that
on the other
champion.
hand, is the champion power is a basic action. This one you can use
This-
on your opponent's turn, though.
When
I
you
mean-
want to gain life drain is a quick
Yeah,
action though.
exactly. That's basically what it comes down to.
Like life drain in your opponent's turn is only ever good if you're chump blocking. Like
Yeah, you chump block.
you're still losing card advantage. Like this is all kinds of bad. Why not just play troops that have life drain?
I mean, you can put your life drain on someone with your champion power and give another character troop life drain with this card. I mean, that's great, but no, it's not great.
On the it will save you note, like yeah, it might save you, but you know what else would save you? Winning the game. Like I would rather just play cards that are gonna help me win the game.
What helps you? What saves you? Winning. And it doesn't help that like the ad I see
interconflict.
right now is a 2.5 Men with Charlie Sheen on it.
Nice.
I got disconnected there, but yeah, I was gonna say like winning the game would also help you not lose, and you know this card doesn't help you win the game. Is all I'm trying to say.
But you know what card
Yeah.
does help you win the game? Interconflict.
Not interconflict.
It doesn't help you win the game.
Well, okay. It is the worst removal. I mean, it can sometimes be okay, but it's the diamond removal. I mean, what are you gonna do?
This is why that demon guy isn't good. Is because like a lot of the bombs do something other than just coming into play and swinging for a bunch of damage, and they're able to completely avoid interconflict because of that.
Yes, exactly. Like if you have a card that has text on it that is exhaust to do this thing, interconflict does nothing against it. If you have, I mean, There are a couple of times that interconflict can be good, like if they have a bunch of the guys where you take two damage every turn or something like that. All right, you put an interconflict on it, they're going to take 2 damage. They're not going to attack with it. They're not going to be able to get rid of it. But then if you have another guy, this actually happened in the stream where the guy had Endbringer out and he interconflicted Endbringer. Well, Endbringer's still going to buff all of your guys plus 2 rage or plus 4 rage when you get down to 10. I mean, interconflict doesn't do anything about that at all.
Now, there's something here
notable.
that
Go.
something I just noticed. So you remember how we were raving about the revert troop?
Sure.
Revert
Also breaks
gets rid of your inner
interconflict.
conflict.
Yep, definitely.
But inner conflict is in some ways better than pacifism, because it's permanent. Like if you kill the troop, it's done. If you bounce the troop and try to replay it, it still can't do whatever you were planning to do with it.
Absolutely.
So I mean, it's got that going for it.
And that's just thankfully a way that Hex is better in making things permanent and not.
Yeah.
I mean, so but once again, if you have a good revert, and we've seen a couple of them now, then that just gets rid of inner conflict as well.
Yeah. So
All
we
right.
got the next one. We have some
move on
exciting
down.
stuff, or at least one card I'm stoked about.
Well, I know it's has to be Krakenguard Mariner.
I'm pretty sure it's Lixel the Deathless Gem.
Actually, Lixel the Deathless Gem is a new card and is kind of, it's at least interesting. Like,
Oh snap! That sucker's invincible.
what are you trying to do with this card? I guess is
Buff
just my
it.
question.
Buff.
Like you're trying
It's
to
a buff
buff
card.
it, but even then, like I don't think buffing it is all that strong. You know, like sure it's gonna be hard to kill, but you're committing a lot of card resources to doing so.
I think invincible might just be that strong then.
Yeah, it
Well-
depends on which version of Invincible it is, like we were talking about earlier, whether it's the WoW TCG version or the Magic the Gathering version.
I would think it's closest to Magic. Like, and that's just my guess. Like Magic invincibility has always made more sense to me. Like,
Yeah,
I
it's
guess
just
what-
this is Cryptozoic, and Cryptozoic's version of invincible in WoW was something a lot more powerful.
yeah.
Well, the question
I think-
really was that Cryptozoic's version of Invincible, or was it the people that actually started
Oh,
WoW
upper deck.
Right.
TCG? Because that
Yeah.
wasn't Cryptozoic.
I know, but Corey also had a little bit of flavor input on what occurred at upper deck too.
That's true.
But
But like, I
Taking
think
a look-
one of the things with this is like you might be able to. There's some combo potential with it. There's a lot of shenanigans potential with it. But the fact that it's just got 1 defense means it's still like if you give it -1/-1, it's just gonna die still.
That makes our other cards that we said are like Sorrow, for example. Sorrow is actually better than this card. It'll kill it.
No, it won't. It'll only give it -1/-0.
Oh, it's not -1/-1.
Yeah, it's,
God,
Sorrow.
Sorrow is terrible.
Sorrow is a
Hashtag
bad
Sorrow
card.
is still bad.
But it is, its purpose is, the infinite chump blocker. As long as it doesn't get crushed. Yeah. I like the idea of giving it flight and a lot of attack and mixing it up with wild and seeing what happens.
All right, I gotta go make a Twitter post. I'm making from now on. Everybody watching this stream, there's at least actually a few people in here. It makes me feel a little bit better since we're not just talking to ourselves. But from now on, everybody, you heard it first. Hashtags better than sorrow is now a thing.
Yes,
Use it
turn it
everywhere
into a
you go.
thing. If you see a card and it's bad, just say hashtag better than sorrow. Yes, it makes Atrophy look better. Atrophy looks like an all-star compared to Sorrow. Lixil
that's
makes
totally my
Atrophy look
fault.
good.
It's totally my fault that we skipped both the Krakenguard Mariner and the Living Totem, which are both quite good cards.
Yeah, I mean, Krakenguard Mirror, it's a fantastic one-drop. It synergizes with, like, everything in an Inspire deck. It's what Inspire looks like it was meant to be. It gives defense. You could, rock it around in a lot of different decks. In fact, you could rock it around with the Corpse Wall and have the most giant Uber blocker that gets murdered ever. And Living Totem is amazing.
So the other
Yeah.
day I was coming up with my own Inspire card design. I mean, this has nothing to do with Krakenguard Mariner, but I was coming up with my own card design, and I think if I was going to make my own card, it would be a card with a major socket, and all the major sockets comes into play abilities, and the Inspire would be inspires all troops to have comes into play ability this troop had. Does that make sense?
Yeah, actually, I suggested that very same thing to Dan Cook at Gen Con.
Yeah, like I think that's a cool idea.
It's kind of funny that you thought about that too. Like that would be a lot of fun. It would be like it would kind of highlight a lot of the ideas behind gems and everything, and it's just a cool ability.
Now, just to make sure I understand, so you're talking about an Inspire effect that applies the socket on the card to all other cards it inspires.
Yeah, more or less that's what I was talking about.
So, I mean, because, like, a come into play effect in and itself is pretty cool, but like, if all of a sudden you can inspire, and then, like, you had on the wild gem that gives every card +1/+1, you know, if it's like a 2-cost socket with that inspire type of effect on there, that would be pretty cool. I ain't gonna lie. I'd play that son of a bitch in a heartbeat.
I also suggested a Inspire card that buffed other Inspire cards just by doing something to them.
Sure. Well, I mean, they all kind of buff
I think
each other,
they need
but I
to
get
do
what you're
stuff
saying,
like
yeah.
All right.
But I like the idea of comes into play abilities just because I always love comes into play abilities. Like those are some of my favorite cards. So it wouldn't necessarily be like it just gives them all flight kind of thing. It would give them all a comes into play ability.
Gotcha.
So like draw a card or something like that.
All right. Now we move on to the Lorgoyle.
We skipped over Living Totem, like one of the awesomest cards.
That's because
we talked about it while you were Twittering.
Yeah.
Oh, we did. Okay.
You twittered around and were like, Living Totem is amazing.
That's
Get
basically
it.
all he said about it, though.
Yeah, I mean that's all it needs to be said.
Living Totem is amazing. If you watched the stream, you watched it decimate and laugh in faces. But then you have Lorgoyle. He's a 4 for 0/5 flight defensive. Shuffle target card into a graveyard into its owner's deck. A little recursion.
When is he good enough?
When is he good enough?
Yeah, when is he good enough?
I think if you put it into the hand, he'd be a lot better.
No, I mean like, well, just being a 0/5 defensive flight, like the shuffle effect isn't gonna matter very often. It's just like if you're trying to stop some reanimator deck, but then at that point, like if that's what you're trying to use as your hate card, you need like a 2 or 1 cost card so that you're fast enough. So in that case, like I'm saying, like when is a 0/5 flight defensive good enough? It blocks a lot of stuff.
Maybe.
But the thing I think is kind of interesting about Hex is like with all the rage guys, defensive guys are actually pretty bad. Like they'll be able to attack through the defensive guys.
Now, what might be interesting is if you put it in a sabotage deck. So a sabotage card hits their hand, goes to the graveyard after it explodes, and then you put the sabotage card back.
Sabotage card is voided, doesn't go to their graveyard.
Well, there we go. Sorry, no
Alright, so we
perfect
got
scenario.
Mystic. Yeah, I mean, Lore Walker's not bad. He's a blocker. But there's like that artifact that does 1 damage to your opponent every turn and counts as an artifact, which sometimes just it's relevant to have artifacts in play rather than gargoyles. And I kind of like that one more.
Then we got Mystic Spirit Walker. 1 threshold, 5 cost, 4/2. Pay 1. This troop gets +0/+1 this turn. So a conditional blocker.
It's like a slightly better Zodiac Shaman.
You know, the fun part about this one is I like that it includes this I really, really want to survive whatever's blocking me part of it. Or I'm holding back because I have enough mana to prevent the giant thing from killing me. I can't let it crush through.
You know what makes this card bad, though, is that it's like it makes it into generally a good blocker. Like, sure, you can use it on offense and then spend the resources on something later in your turn because your opponent didn't block it because it would have survived anyways. But then if you're trying to save it as a defensive troop, you need to keep all your resources back and you can't use them during your own turn. Sure, you could save them for a quick action, but it takes away from the card's flexibility.
Yeah, Jax mentioned that it can, though it's a big mana sink, it does have some draft potential to it, and I can agree to that. I take it over Sorrow.
Take it over Sorrow. There you go. No, Noble Citizenry, another new card.
Oh man, brand new. It is a 4 for
this is a cool
2/3. Troop enters play. Another target troop you control gets permanent +2/+2. Yeah, it's kind of like a limited Wild Root Dancer. Costs a little more. Only does it once.
This card has more flavor text on it than it has actual text. The Human Kingdom is divided into 3 3 counties, not countries, counties. Adamanth, Cerulia, and Gawain. The relations between the counties are historically peaceful, with most major conflicts coming from outside sources. Like, that's the most boring flavor text ever. Why did they even include that? Like, that's just like saying these are 3 counties, sometimes things happen in them.
Well, you know what? Human relations are boring. That's why we have elves and dwarves and coyotl and gargoyles and undead.
And the guy on the right, like, what's he doing in this picture? He just feels like he doesn't belong. Like, the black guy, he's being stern.
Wow, are you going there?
Well, yeah. And the woman in the middle, she's thinking carefully, but the guy on the side, like,
He's holding his stick.
He's
Before
Tanda's
you
half
up.
elfin, and he is the flavor that comes in from their love of Dragonlance.
he's looking really, really like in at the side of her head. You know, he's looking straight, like kind of at her ear. He's very intent on whatever. I don't know why
I
he's
really
staring
feel
at it
like-
so intensely.
I really feel like that this card basically just got the other half of, Beast Rider, Master Beast Rider.
Yeah. Well, you know what? And I feel like they have 3 characters standing there on the front. Why couldn't they have just made it a wild card and used Runs to the Litter artwork? Because that artwork was way cool. Like, I want to see that artwork. I loved it so much. It was so good.
Well, you know what? Flavor text can change just as much as game text. So, start a
Yeah.
petition, guys. I see it in there. Start a petition. Until then, we're going to move on to the Paladin of Nagan.
You should start it with, no, seriously, this flavor text is worse than Zara.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Hashtag worse than sorrow.
This is the reason I don't pick this card, is because the flavor text.
So, Paladin of Nagan, which we all have to remember the names themselves are palindromes for these guys.
Yeah. Was I the first one to catch that, or did anybody else catch up before me?
I don't know. It's down
I was
somewhere.
pretty proud of myself when I realized it.
I think you are the first one who mentioned it. I know you're the first one who mentioned it on the YouTubes.
Yeah. But anyways, Paladin again, he's pretty much a vanilla 3/5.
Yeah.
He's slightly better than Zodiac Shaman. He's got 3
Yes.
attack.
Slightly better. He's there to teach you how to swing.
Alright, and then you got a Phoenix Guard Aeronaut, which in my opinion was nerfed.
Yeah,
hugely.
he was. He used to be a control all-star, and now he's
Yeah, it was
quite
a
life
beat.
drain steadfast. Now he's a beat stick.
What do you think? Was this too strong before? Gwaer? Was like it just testing? Like you played with it maybe a couple times, right?
Yeah, I did. I don't think he was too strong before. I don't know. I guess they're just trying to fill a different role. That's what it seems like to me. I don't know that it was a power nerf and not we really need a card to do this thing for some reason, and we don't want to put another card in the set. I don't know.
I think there's actually a mistake here. Like, this seems weird to me. So, on Hex Realms, I think that's the site, they spoiled Chimera, or maybe it was something more than that, but it was a Chimera, and it was a 5-cost guy that was an uncommon, and I think it was a 4/4. You could give it Flight, Life Drain, or Steadfast each turn, so it only ever had one of them. Like, this card existing and that card existing, they just, like, occupy too
That's a
much
good
of the
point.
same space to me.
All right. So my other theory goes back to a previous theory, which is they were trying to keep the game simple for set 1, and that was not a very simple mechanic. Like, I could see a lot of people playing
Sure.
something and then being like, why can't I do this thing? What the
Yeah.
heck's going on? My game's
I'm
frozen.
with that.
Yeah, it seems more that they simplified it. I mean, Flight, Life Drain, Steadfast. It's nice. It really is. And
I definitely preferred the other one.
Yeah.
It was
I-
an amazing card.
And the other one was a 3/4, I think, right?
Maybe something like
Yeah.
that.
Now, Prairie Scout, on the other hand, well, he's no.
It's 1-for-1.
Yeah, he's a 1-for-1
All right,
one.
so
Tap, give
I
something
gotta-
+1/+1.
I gotta interrupt you again on flavor stuff. Is I like to think that the Phoenix Guard Aeronaut, like the bird, is the size of a regular bird, and the guy is just really, really small.
It's the size of a canary.
Yeah.
Since we're talking about the Phoenix Guard Aeronaut, Corey has said multiple times that we're going to see better Phoenixes, and I'm starting not to believe him. I think that this is just a joke that he's been perpetrating.
That we're getting trolled.
Yes.
I think I would like that more. Like I kind of.
Well, he's a
in that
Phoenix
sense, like, I like to
guard.
get trolled by the developers of games I'm playing.
They say he's part of the Phoenix Guard. Maybe he's just really low on the Phoenix Guard, and he's part of the Canary Bros.
All Phoenixes look like canaries. Like, that's just how they're drawn.
That's like. Okay, so Prairie Scout. Anyways, Mokog, you were sorry.
Yeah, so Prairie Scout, 1/1/1 tap, gives a troop +1/+1 this turn. He's not bad. He's a good 1-drop. I know we'll see him in limited. He'll be there in draft. He might even have some constructed play at some point. He'd be super awesome if you could turn it permanent. But
Yeah, I don't see constructed, but limited definitely. The one thing though on the limited end, I really wish he was common. Like, to me, like I wish this guy was common and that Paladin Nagan was an uncommon, because that Paladin is just so boring, and like this guy is interesting. Like, it's fun to play against, it's fun to play with, and if you're like building a really aggressive early drop diamond deck, like, it seems good.
I agree. Yeah, 100%.
all right, let's roll it down. The Protectorate Clergyman.
Who's a good boy? Like,
He's
what is
talking.
that?
He's talking about the Coyote. Who's a
Oh,
good
okay.
boy? Who's a good Prairie Scout? Who's
Yeah,
a good
I see.
Prairie Scout?
Okay.
Tap, give me 1/1.
There you go. Nice.
All right, so the Protectorate. He's a 3/3/2, 1 threshold, cleric, inspire. As another troop with cost equal to or greater than this troop enters play under your control, gets permanent +1/+1. You know, I'd like to see a reverse version of inspire at some point, where instead of
It
it
does
being
lower.
yeah, that does it on lower. So maybe it's like a 7 drop and it does something, oh my god, amazing. It's like the turn after you should have won, where it's really irrelevant, but it's just lovely looking.
I thought you were gonna say like it gave all troops that followed it a worse ability. Like,
Oh, that
it
would be even
demoralized
cooler.
them. Like, that would be kind of cool.
Oh,
And that would be, like, cool.
The antithesis
It-
to inspire.
Yeah, it would demoralize them. It could either work on your own troops or your opponents. Like, both are interesting mechanics and like are completely, totally different as far as deck building goes. But like, that's actually a pretty. I like that idea.
All right, that's also going on our petition. Demoralize.
First one to text a dev wins.
Well, I got Ben's phone number somewhere here.
Yeah, the
Too
question
late.
is
Yeah,
that
too
we
late.
should have Colin listening
Did you already
now. He
text
can
him
probably
that,
pull
really?
him up already.
No, I didn't.
What was I gonna say? Protectorate though almost made my my top 5. He was in my top 10 for the uncommons. Like, he's pretty good.
Yeah, permanent +1/+1's fantastic. Protectorate Sorcerer is interesting too. The Swift Strike, I think, is what makes him.
Honestly, I think he's one of the better minor sockets that we've seen so far. The only problem I have with him is that he's so expensive. I mean, at that point, I could be playing a major socket instead. So it's the Swift Strike definitely is a huge boon.
So Swift Strike is basically evasion. Like, it's funny comparing this to the Quick Strider. Like, when is the Protectorate better, kind of thing. So Swift Strike is basically evasion. So giving him flight with that gem doesn't make him that much better. Like, when would you rather just be playing the Boulder Brute, which is a 4/4 with flight, rather than whatever this guy is with Swift Strike and a socket? Like,
You know,
I still
actually,
like Boulder Brute more.
the Swift Strike is what keeps him from being terrible. But looking at the guy next to
Yeah.
him, the Quick Strider, I'd rather take the Quick Strider. Swift Strike 2 for 2,
he's
2
more
for
on
2
curve
turns
for sure,
faster.
yeah. And he works better with combat tricks and all that stuff.
I mean, because he's high enough to get the Protectorate buff from him. So if I went Protectorate 1 turn and then Quick Strider the next
Oh.
turn, he'd be a
Yeah.
3 for 3/3 Swift Strike at that point.
Jack-
See, that's the
Jack's
thing that
point is
people
something
don't
else.
realize, yeah, is that the sockets are so versatile. Like, that's why I said this guy, he looks
Yeah.
alright.
You're right. So turning him into like a 5/2 for that has Swift Strike is all of a sudden a lot better. Yeah, or giving him Rage, or giving him Speed maybe. Well, no, not Speed. Speed's probably pretty weak for him. But
I think
like,
Rage
giving him
would
the
be-
+2 is pretty good.
Giving Rage Swift Strike, I think, is also nifty. The
Yeah, definitely.
Sorcerer is great and limited. I also just like the Quick Strider though. He's good. He's simple. He's the 3-cost beat stick that new players learn how to play with Swift Strike. Plus,
Alrighty.
Coyote will need it. Let's move down to Radiant Armor. Alright, Gwaer, you haven't introduced one in a little bit.
Yeah.
Alright, sure. Radiant Armor. This actually is a great card with another card that I didn't talk during, the Charger. It turns into a combat trick at that point, but it's a 3-cost quick action that takes 1 diamond threshold that is target troop you control gets permanent +0/+1 for each diamond threshold you have. Basically, you can just throw this on a guy, and if you've got, 5 diamond threshold out, he's now got 5 permanent more defense. And if you throw that on the Charger guy that's 0/4 that gets attack when equal to his defense every time he attacks, it suddenly is very strong.
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting combat trick in that it has a permanent effect.
It makes it playable and limited, that's for sure.
Yes, I mean, I don't know that I would actually pick it, but in the deck that I was forced to play that had it, I made good use of it.
Alrighty.
Now we got Repel, another form of combat trick removal.
So this one is destroy target attacking or blocking troop. It costs 4, and I talked about this one. Well, I didn't really talk about it. I glazed over it, and that's why people were. So I made a video a little while back about some just early draft picks. Since there isn't a whole lot of this set hadn't been spoiled yet, there was no point going all the picks. And this was in one of the first 3 picks, and that's all I was doing was just first 3 picks. And I made a bunch of videos of them, and I kept not picking this card, and people were like, oh, I would take Repel. And I still stand by that. Repel is not a good card. It's so easy to play around. If your opponent has it, you know that they have it. Holding back 4 resources and trying to bluff that you have Repel is not an option you have. You can't hold back that many resources. If it's just 2 for a combat trick, sure, you can. This isn't removal. It's a combat trick. They still have to attack into it, or you have to block into it. And either way, if you're using it to destroy a blocker, you are losing all kinds of tempo advantage. It's just all kinds of bad in that situation. If you're using it to destroy an attacker, it's not quite as bad, but then you are risking the potential to completely lose your turn as far as spending your resources. And it's a card that's easy to play around. It's not a card I'm excited about. I'll play it. Sure, I'll pick it 6th or 7th, but it's not a card I'm going to be picking early in a draft.
I would like to add one thing to that, which is if you have a soul marble or something else that you can dump your resources into at the end of their turn,
sure,
it becomes much more effective. And I honestly would run soul marble in pretty much any diamond deck most of the time. I really like soul marble. It's quite good.
Yeah, soul marble seems like I want to try it to see it. Right now I'm not readily comfortable saying whether it's good or not, but I think it has potential to be.
Now, our next one, though, is Resurrection. A 9 cost. Suckers cost a ton. 3 threshold, constant. At the end of your turn, put target troop from your graveyard into play. It gets permanent +2/+2. Shouldn't you have won by the point that you can drop 9 resources?
Yeah, I don't like this card.
It needs to say put all troops into play from your graveyard. It needs to cost 8 or 7. It needs to for 9. It needs to do something stupid strong.
Yeah. I mean, granted, going into your graveyard and picking the strongest thing and adding 2 to it, yeah, that's great and all, but it's not a 9 cost great.
Yeah, I mean, it is nice that it's a constant rather than an action. That helps it out a little bit. Mm-hmm. But I would like this card more as an action that costs 7 and put all your troops into play or something like that.
Hey, you know what happens? The best part, you can remove this and get +2 health and wild.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, even as a constant, though, 9 cost, you really should, especially 9 cost in Diamond, because it doesn't have really any ramp.
You'd have to splash wild to ramp. And even then, you'd still have to get in the 3 diamond threshold. What would the soonest you'd be able to pull that would be a perfect world turn 5?
Yeah. So looking at this one, on the bright side, it is getting a card back the turn it comes into play, so it is impacting the board, but it's doing so on such a small level. Wouldn't you rather just play Call to the Grave, pick the card that you wanted, and put it back into play? You don't really care about the 2/2. When you're spending 9 to do it,
getting 2/2 is not the most awesome thing in the world.
Yeah, I mean, what on earth would 2/2 do that the Call of the Grave wouldn't? I mean, because the Call of the Grave, you could splash, you could run a Shard of Fate to give yourself the Blood Threshold, and then drop your Call of the Grave.
So I guess if you have someone that like a 2-cost constant that gains you 1 life every turn, and you can sacrifice it to search your deck for a constant and put that constant into play, then all of a sudden this becomes decent in like a reanimator deck or something like that.
Yeah, you have to find a way to trick it into play. So maybe this part will be like a component later on, maybe set 2 or set 3. Until then,
I figure
ahead.
You're playing combo, right, or something super slow. You've only got a couple of big threats in. The guy manages to destroy your combo, so you have this to fall back on to just keep pulling that one giant guy back out until it kills him.
You're like, I'll just hold out until turn 9, because when that turn lands, oh man, gonna be in trouble.
Oh man, Diamond got a cool card, Reversion. Revert target card. Just flat out, boom.
I don't think I main deck it, but it's definitely pretty good sideboard.
Yeah, it's just flat out revert.
Yeah, for 1. That's
quick.
That's interesting. I was actually wondering what they valued their revert at.
Well,
so that answers that, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, revert looks pretty damn cheap. I mean, because it's a quick action with that function.
Here, I think I've got something funny for you guys. 1 second, let me see if it actually works the way I think it does.
Oh man.
So, can you revert an inspiration engine with this? Because that would be like
wait,
it would be
hold on.
dream crushing so hard.
I have to read what inspiration engine says.
Yeah, it says, and it transforms into inspiration engine.
Then yes, you can revert
man.
that.
Think it like, that would be so dream
For
crushing.
For one.
Now, does remind me, does it put counters or anything on the card?
So the plans puts counters on it, like as you're tapping stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You would let them remove all the counters.
So we do remove all the counters.
Revert it.
Oh, that would be so mean.
Does it specifically say remove counters? Because I have a theory that when you transform a card that takes counters, automatically the counters are removed.
Yeah, I think so too.
That is my working theory, whether it says it or not. But if that card says remove counters, then that may not be true. That's
got to be true that it removes all the counters, because with that Shin Hair, that's like a cool card. If it kept the counters, like, it's insane all of a sudden.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, we're saying inspiration engine, but if you look at the art on there, it looks as though it is reverting an artifact.
Yeah, so it doesn't say removes all counters. I think that's something that's just going to be assumed.
The revert then transform is very different, because that's like you take a zombie plague or something like that. It's got a bunch of negatives. If it didn't revert that card, it would just make it a zombie that then dies because it's got negative counters on it.
Yeah.
So that's a little different than the transforming your own cards that have positive counters on them.
Now, we do happen to have one of our synergy cards right here, the Righteous Paladin, with our Adamanthian Scrivener.
It's not just that. Yeah, like Adamanthian Scrivener and Runs the Litter and like the champion that puts Shenir into play, like all kinds of stuff with Righteous Paladin can happen.
Pact of Life.
Pact of Life, or that destroying a constant and getting
destroy
2 life.
Constant, get 2 life, and buff my Righteous Paladin.
Living the dream.
Bam!
So, this is the one that makes This is the guy that makes Pact of Life better to play. So Pact of Life comes in, your Righteous Paladin's there on the field, you play a resource, you get your 3 life, you get your +1/+1. You're like, hey, I feel good gaining life now. Never mind, it's a trick. It's just much better to go Adamanthian Scrivener, Righteous Paladin, laugh.
Honestly, I think this card is such a trap. Like, people who think this card are good, they're living the dream. They're just like living in magical Christmas land too much.
Oh, I so disagree. I mean,
okay, so how so?
I don't know. I can't even explain it. I know why you say that, and I know why life gain's supposed to be bad, But that life gain deck was really good. It had so many synergies.
Well,
like
I think
know
the
Righteous
part that
Paladin
does
isn't
it-
the only win condition. I mean, you can't rely on it, but it's a great card for that deck.
Well, yeah, it's a 2 for 2 2.
You're talking about
it's
the
a
one in
bear.
Gen Con, right?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure you weren't talking about the MTG deck or something
No,
like that.
no.
So I mean, it's a bear. It's a 2 for 2 2 without the ability. So it's on curve for that part. You have the Animanthian Scrivener, which is already a decent 1-drop for the color that synergizes perfectly with this. They're easy to get, and plus it works with Life Drain, which is a good mechanic on a card. It works with the
And
totem.
it's champion power, which is important to know because it's like the champion powers are something you can always depend on.
Yeah, oh yeah, use the champion power on this guy. Whenever he then actually hits with this life gain, he then buffs himself.
Yeah.
So I mean,
you
and that's
can
the reason
get-
why
you can
it's
get
because
multiple Scriveners out, and you can have it proccing multiple times. I mean, there's a lot of good synergy there. I mean,
Yeah.
I really feel like it can be a viable deck, and I really feel like that can be a great card. It's just, but I do understand where you're coming from, and I know that in principle I should agree with you.
Yeah, I could totally eat my words here. Like I think you and I are both like agreeing that we see both opposite sides of the coins, and they're both totally possible. Is that like Righteous Paladin? Yeah, it could all of a sudden on turn 3 turn into like a 10-10 or something ridiculous. I don't know how, but it could get really big really fast, and then your opponent just murders it.
well because it has to hit play before your Scriveners goes. So turn 1 Scrivener, turn 2 Scrivener, turn 3 Righteous Paladin. It's now a 2 for 4/4.
No, you would
no,
do
5.
turn 1 Scrivener, turn 2 Paladin. You want the Paladin out as soon as possible.
Yeah. Because I mean, even when you play the second the Scrivener, the second Scrivener is going to go off on itself as well, so it's still going to get both buffs off of that.
But yeah. So I mean, there's potential. I think the deck at Gen Con, I think people weren't playing it because it was a slow deck and they wanted to grind it and stuff like that. I think the deck definitely had potential, and after playing it myself a little bit, I was like, hey, this deck actually is not that bad. But the reasons it was good, I think, are not because of Righteous Paladin.
I mean, I think that Righteous Paladin played a role, but I mean, a lot of it was
Okay.
there was a lack of removal as well. I mean, in those decks, there wasn't a lot of
Yeah.
removal. They wanted people to be able to play the things they got out. They didn't want them to lose it to removal. And I mean, I get that, I understand that, but just life gain as a mechanic, I feel like has more potential in this game than we are used to life gain having.
All right.
And I'm with you that I would love to see life gain actually them figure out at what point how much life is reasonable to gain for 2 resources.
And moreover, I think there's a card coming up. I hope it's in this spoiler because I'd really like to talk about it. What is it? The one that doubles your life pool whenever you hit with it.
Yeah.
Oh, that
That's
card.
all.
Now, here's a thought. Is it possible to revert a champion? Because the thought
Is
is
it
that
possible to revert a champion?
yeah.
I don't see why
well,
it would be. The champion's not a card.
Well,
So if
they
you're reverting a
represent it
champion-
as a card, and just kind of like a resource is
does that
represented as
return
a
it
card.
to 20 health?
That's my curious question.
Yeah.
So
I
could
would
you use it
think
on
so.
either side? Ideally, you shouldn't. But I'm going to try it anyway just to see what happens. See if they allow
No,
you to
I would-
target with it.
I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if some number of sets, 3, 4, 10, 15 blocks down,
Sure.
we have like cards that are granting your champion abilities and stuff,
Of
and
course, yeah.
reverts that could maybe take those off. But I mean, not anytime soon.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's. Do we want to talk about the rigid buffalo and his bloody horn?
No, it's a 2-2,
no.
a 2-3 for
His
2.
bloody
It's-
horn is interesting. The guy in the axe, he messed that guy up. He didn't know what he was coming. The guy had the axe and he got killed by the buffalo. Well, we can just move right on.
Oh, and it
Yeah,
looks
I'm
like it was
actually
an
really
orc,
looking
poor
forward
guy.
to its extended art because I have a feeling something's down there beneath its feet.
I
so.
really hope so.
All right, so we have Rose Lion, a
The
2 for
Roseland, on the
0
other
1.
hand, underneath its extended art, you actually don't want to see.
Oh my goodness, that's you don't want to see how it plants into the ground, right? How it stays stable. That would
Exactly.
be very, very unfortunate. I like that it gives you a reward for not doing anything, but I don't like that you have to not do anything to get a reward.
Yeah, if if you play it turn 2 in limited, it's not that bad. Eventually, it's going to get pretty big, and so long as you're playing other threats, they're going to be forced to use their removal on the cards that are actually doing something, and then eventually Rose Lion becomes a threat in itself. And like that's really what it is. It's like if you're playing and you're trying to apply pressure to your opponent, Rose Lion isn't really your concern until it becomes your concern, if that makes any sense.
No, perfectly. I think it's actually a very good way to control what your opponent does, because your opponent's going to be trying to save some removal for it, and that might let you get attacks with other cards that you normally wouldn't. And then either they'll blow their removal on something else because you're just not using your Rose Lion, or they'll eventually remove it. And either case, you should still be having threats that you're applying.
Yeah.
So
it sounds like it's a limited trick card. So in limited, you can kind of turn it into a trick and a psychological thing.
Well, like it's applying pressure over the course of the game. So if you do play it turn 2, your opponent like is under this situation where they either have to deal with it, or they just have to kill you before it becomes a problem.
Or they have to force you to block with it. Like they
Exactly.
can also, if they pressure you to use it, that also removes it as well. So.
All right. Now,
So then we got Shield Trainer.
Yep.
Which is I would say pretty boring. And actually, I was gonna say about the Rose Lion is it looks like he's saying "What's up?" Like those really annoying commercials. Like that's what he's saying.
I have a feeling that we have out-aged some of our audience with that.
Yeah. Shield Trainer,
I kind of hope
Inspire.
that would be a good sign for Hex. Like, I really hope this game is like incredibly successful, and I think it will be.
Me too.
Well, you know what? I'll tell you what. I pay attention to my analytics on my channel, and the majority of my viewership is between the ages of 35 to 45. So we have an older clientele. The majority of my audience is over the age of 25.
Those people also have money to spend, so that's
Yeah, this is true.
So we do have an older crowd. We don't have as many young kids in it. But in any case, so Shield Trainer, boring, been around for a while. He's not bad. He's a bear with Inspire. But what about the Skyly Griffin?
A 4 for 2, a 2/4 for 4 with Flight is, it's a flight card. Flight's good. It's what I would expect for a diamond flight card, I guess, but
It's
I don't think it's a great
reasonably
card.
costed. Like,
right.
I'm totally happy playing this. Like, it blocks a lot of stuff easily. Eventually, once you stabilize, it's going to be able to attack since it has evasion. Like, I think it fits perfectly. Like, I'm totally happy playing 2 or 3 copies of this card. So, assuming I don't have all that many bombs.
All right, Soothing Breeze. I have ragged on this card so often. I have, in one of my videos about life gain and life drain, it was just rough.
But it's not a good card.
You know what's funny is like, all 3 of these cards that we're looking at, like, what would it take for these 3 cards to be good?
Soothing Breeze could also say you win the game. That would make it pretty good.
Yeah. So on that note, would you rather have Sorrow in your deck or Soothing Breeze?
Soothing Breeze. Still better than Sorrow.
I think Soothing Breeze is still better than Sorrow. Yeah.
Hashtag better than Sorrow.
No, you know what? I think I would probably take Sorrow over Soothing Breeze.
Oh, you're lying. -1 attack.
I think you're gonna win more often if you have Soothing Breeze in your deck.
At least, like, compared to that, Soothing Breeze gives you like a turn and a half.
If my games are coming down to either Soothing Breeze or Sorrow, I don't deserve to win any. So I hope I don't win more if I have Sorrow rather than Soothing Breeze.
All right, we'll play that. So I guess what I'm getting at is how much life would Soothing Breeze have to give you for you to be like slam dunk first pick?
See, I think that the problem is that no amount of just straight up life is really good for a card.
Actually,
like
I know what it is.
100, if this gave 100 life, there's no argument. This would be the best card in set 1.
No.
Sure.
So
for pure life gain, I know what it is. If it just read 2 for 1 diamond threshold, quick action, double your current life total.
Yeah, well, of course that would be extremely good.
Yeah, but like the lower bounds of that. I mean,
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing is
Where's
that early
actually the
on it's
cutoff
cool.
mark?
You know, early on that's something, it gives you reason to play it early. Later on when you're getting trounced, you know, it's a trap
doesn't
card
do
at that
anything.
point. So, you know, the idea is early it's awesome, later it's bad. If you get 3 of them in your opening hand, say welcome to the longest game in the world, you know we're going to
you know what
tie out on
I
here.
think would make me happier, that would actually make the card worse, probably, if it said gain 2 health for every diamond threshold you have, or something similar to that. So it at least scales some in the game.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, if it had something other than a flat amount of health that you gained, I would be very happy with it. But also, if we got the flat amount to like 10 or 15, then yeah, okay, it'll be a fine card as well. But it just needs to do something other than just give flat health, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. Like, if it was gain health and give a creature +1/+1 permanently, gain a health and put like 2 runs the litter into play, and it costs
Sure.
5 all of a sudden. Sure,
Literally
Like, that would-
anything
yeah,
else,
anything else.
as well as gain health. Yes.
Although I do think what you're saying is like, if it gained 2 life for every diamond threshold you played, I think that would be good, and I think it would actually be good design. Like, it fits with kind of the theme of like the X cards they've put out.
Right. Yeah, I mean, if you're playing it on turn 3, you're getting 6, which is slightly worse. But you know, if you're playing it later on, it could be significantly better and
It could be
more
14
useful.
life or something.
Right.
But until
So-
then, we have the learning card of gaining 7 health. Because it's another
Exactly.
learning card. It teaches you quick actions and helps you not die
Yeah.
for learning it. But then we have our 1/1/1 Eagle that's a Pegasus.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Spear
that
Cliff
is
like
not an eagle at all.
Well,
It
the
doesn't have any, like, this text box is so piddly. It needs flavor text. Like, all it says
Right.
is flight. It's like
it's a
they
freaking
just-
Pegasus,
Yeah.
right? It could say something about Pegasi.
Yeah, or it could not even say flight in there, and you could just assume it does. It's just like, like the text box was blank, and they're like, "Well, I guess we have to put something in there." Jeez, I guess we'll put flight. Like, come on, guys.
It's like that spider. There's that spider one we were talking about that used to be
Yeah,
Zentoth something that's like hanging from a web and like
Mhm.
not attached to the ground. I really feel like that card should have flight, just because it's not in contact with the ground in any way.
yes.
Or have
So
reach.
Something.
Yeah, reach. I'm
Reach
glad they're
is not a
included.
thing we haven't seen in the game
Yeah.
yet.
Correct.
So
We've
maybe
not
in a
seen-
future set.
We've not seen that yet. But we do have a 3 for 1/2 Wind Whisperer. Pay 1, tap, exhaust target troop. Little control
Yeah,
right
Wood
there.
Whisperer we've seen before. I'm on the fence about it. I mean, exhausting troops is not really my favorite thing in the world. So
I know. Exhausting Troops
I'll-
was a lot more powerful in like the World of Warcraft TCG, but you had the ability to like directly target and persistent health in WoW,
Yeah, that was a little different.
and so you know it meant a little more to exhaust it so you could deal with it the next turn. But with regenning health, it's not as cool. I mean, I love the look of the card. I think they're doing really good on giving the Coyote some character, with the exception of Soothing Breeze, which I
So
think Soothing
here's-
Breeze is freaking silly when it comes to flavor. I mean, is
Yeah.
it holding a baby? Sorry.
Ourselves are like the wind; neither can be possessed.
Yeah,
No.
and then the
Alright,
army
so-
of Shinhair marches across your grasslands and then slaughters you because you failed in survival of the fittest.
There's like a sapphire card that there was a phone that inspires troops to be able to exhaust other troops that are weaker than it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the name of it. Like this Wind Whisper.
Cerulean
is-
Grand Strategist.
Yeah, Wind Whisper, in my opinion, is strictly better than that card. Like, using good cards to exhaust bad cards is not what you want to be doing. Like, why are you using your good cards to exhaust their bad cards? Why aren't you just using your good cards to win? Like, you know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
So it's actually
there's
a-
that aspect.
It's a steadfast
And then-
combination, actually, for that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I get that there's that, but then, like, this guy doesn't need to inspire other troops. It just works on its own.
Mm-hmm. I
That's
like the
why.
Wind Whisperer. I think its cost could be a little lower. I think if it was a 2-drop, it might be constructed viable. but I see it as a little bit of diamond control for limited.
I mean, definitely. I mean, for 1 mana, you can keep their biggest, baddest beat, whatever, out of mission. I mean, and that's good. That's good, but I don't know. I'm just not a huge fan, but I admit that it's a good card.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I'm not even saying it's a good card. I'm just saying, like, there are cards that it is better than, and those are Soothing Breeze and Sorrow.
I mean, also you have to figure for 1 mana, this card can put out of commission any huge monster. I mean, so it's quite good. It's just not down my alley.
Do you know we just reached the end of Diamond?
Thank God.
Yeah.
But we have a hard question now. What is your favorite Diamond card?
Eternal Youth.
Let's see. I know I can find one. I think I might know what it is. You can
I
go
actually
ahead.
I actually have to look at the Diamond cards. Yeah, go ahead. You go ahead.
All right, what you got?
Oh, me go ahead.
You
I
go
need
ahead.
another
Yeah,
thing.
you said you knew which one you liked.
Mokog.
Oh,
go.
me. Okay. Well, actually, no. I like Adamanthian Scrivener. I've liked him since I've seen him. He is a nice little 1-drop. I drop him, I gain life.
Wizard. Dibs on Frost Wizard.
You can have Frost
Wizard's
Wizard.
pretty good. Yeah, Frost Wizard's pretty good.
Because you know what? When you play your Frost Wizard, my Adamanthian
Or
Scrivener
Living
would
Totem.
give me 1 life.
No, when you play, you won't get a life from my Frost Wizard.
No, we're in Diamond. I would play him too. What are you thinking? In fact, I would go ahead and give my Adamanthian Scrivener the damage prevention so that they didn't blow him up so I could gain more life.
Cool story, bro.
Exactly. But why'd you take his totem? You know, Function loved the totem.
Totem would be probably, if I'm looking at like for realsies. Yeah, the totem's mine.
Totem's
if I'm
pretty good.
like for flavor, it's got to be Guard Dog.
Guard Dog. Roof.
He's like, sup, bro. Actually, and honestly, like the other one, if I was just looking at like what's my favorite common, it would be the old Grimskull Sorcerer. Like,
Sure.
The new one, they gotta change him back. I like the old one. I think he had an interesting function. Is that like a lot of the socketed cards are really offensive, and it's like, what can you do to like make this into a huge threat? And the Sorcerer was previously more of like, how can I socket this best to keep myself alive? That's what I saw it as before.
All right, gentlemen. I have a very crucial question. Do we want to foray into Ruby, or
I don't know.
do we want to put this on hold, check and see if we're going to get invites tomorrow?
Well, I'm gonna get an invite tomorrow. You guys aren't.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Well,
neither
if they
of us
push
are.
it off again,
well, I'm still gonna get an invite before you. Doesn't matter how far they push it off.
I'm gonna be crying so hard because like I got the day off tomorrow. I gotta get an invite. Like I want to play.
Dude, I tried. I
badly.
tried so
Yeah.
hard. I pulled all of the strings that didn't involve me calling anyone at Cryptozoic to try to get into the test tonight. I mean, I could have called people in Cryptozoic. I thought about it real hard, but I figure if they wanted me to be a tester, they would have let me be a tester. I don't need to bug them about it.
Yeah, I already wrote him an email about getting a spoiler last week, so I can't bug any of those guys too much more.
oh my goodness, is that the reason you got a
I have never
spoiler?
asked them for anything.
Oh, maybe it was. I mean, I sent him an email and I hadn't heard back yet, so it probably was the reason.
All of my love. I gave them all of my love, and I spent all of Dragon Con with them, and I showed them the ropes there, and still not a tester.
You were like high rolling over at Dragon Con.
Yeah, well. So if it were up to me, I would say that we should do Ruby simply because I've been going to bed at like 9 p.m. for the past 3 days, and this has kept me up. And I really want to stay up late so that I can play all day tomorrow when we finally get our invites.
Okay, so you want to?
Right.
If you guys want to do Ruby, I'm totally down. I'm chilling like.
Function's
I'm
off
hanging out.
tomorrow. His opinion doesn't matter.
Well, and
Yeah,
I
guess
am
that's
off
true.
tomorrow as well, but I also have a very
Oh.
lovely wife who might get angry at me soon. But she hasn't knocked
Look
on the
at
door
Ash
yet.
Harpy though.
Is she cute when she's angry?
She can be.
My wife's not home yet, so I don't know why. She should have been home, but that's
Well, true.
Not the point.
One of us. Oh,
that's when
oh
like
goodness,
a serial
alive!
killer
Don't
bursts through
don't
my
push us
doors
that
and
hard.
kills me. Like, You thought you were going to play Hex tomorrow, but I'm going to serial kill you.
You know what? Screw it. We'll go until one of us is forced to stop. Ruby it is.
Yeah. Well,